Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. If you're regular here, you know I review many photographic, audio and video related products. Well, today we're doing the inevitable. We're actually comparing two cameras. I think we all knew this was going to happen. I'm comparing the Nikon Z30 that we have here, and it's one of my favourite new cameras. Love this camera, love the handling. So we've got the Nikon Z30. And you've guessed it, the obvious choice to compare it against is the Sony ZV-E10 that we have here, although I've got a Sigma lens fitted to it. And all I'm going to do is take a quick look at the comparison between these two cameras. And I'm doing this. I've had a couple of people ask me, is the Z30 better than the ZV-E10 and vice versa? And it's an obvious comparison. Even other reviewers have said that Nikon are really trying to encroach on Sony's market, because the ZV-E10 was sold and is, I think, still currently sold as a content creation camera, a vlogger's camera. I don't do vlogging, but in this video I will do some quick video clips of me vlogging out in a garden. I'm not great at it, I haven't got a very steady hand, but I want you to see, because again I've had a few people ask me, the Z30 and the ZV-E10 do not have in-body image stabilization. You are reliant on optical stabilization in the lenses, if the lenses have it, that you've got fitted to the camera, or a really steady hand. So I am going to do those vlogging comparisons. So I said in my main review I would do a quick vlogging test, but the first camera you're looking at here is the Nikon Z30. I've got to be careful I don't trip over the hose pipe as I walk down the path. Now, I'm not a vlogger, I don't have a very steady hand, but at least you'll see how good the image stabilization is using the lens stabilization, because I've got the DX 16-50 kit lens fitted to it, and it's overexposing a bit because it's really bright out here, so apologies for that. I should have got an ND filter, but I haven't. And the eye detector is working fine. I can see on the screen that my eye detector is working fine, and the great thing is the Z30 has got a red tally light. Now, I'm not using an external microphone. To be fair, I'm only using the internal stereo mics that are actually built into the camera. And that's pretty steady, isn't it? When I stand still, you can see that's pretty steady. So there will be a lot of people that will be just doing standing shots, won't necessarily be walking with it. And I'm finding that's actually, pretty steady. I haven't got a very steady hand. I should do the same test with the ZV-E10 just to see how well that works. And also the eye detector is working great, even if there's foliage in the foreground, it is picking up, my eye. So I'm really happy with that. Now I'm doing the same test with the Sony ZV-E10. I've actually got fitted to it, I've got to again make sure I don't trip over the hose pipe. I've got fitted to it the Sony 10-18 lens. That's a really good combination with a ZV-E10 for vlogging, because I can go really wide with it. You can see it's got quite a wide area of field of view, so that's really good. You can see your surroundings quite easily. And again, I've had to turn the aperture right down because of the real bright sunshine in today's summer. The good thing is the ZV-E10 has a red frame going around the monitor, so I can clearly see that is recording. And I tell you why that's good, is because as I hold the camera, my thumb covers up the tally light, so I wouldn't be able to see if it is recording if it only relied on the tally light. Luckily, Sony, I guess they thought about that in the design of it, and it's got the red frame around the screen, so that's awesome. Again, I think you'll find both cameras are great for this sort of thing. I've got a feeling though, the image stabilization on the Nikon might be just that little bit better. So I'm just going to do a standing still shot so you can see how good the image stabilization is with my shaky hand. That seems pretty solid actually. I can come in a bit tighter actually. That does seem pretty solid on the ZV-E10. I think it's pretty solid on the Z30 as well. The Sony has got an active, as well as the standard mode, it's got active image stabilization, but that crops it in even tighter. So I've not used that. I'm just using what I would probably use if I was a vlogger, is use this particular mode. And the grip actually is quite good. I haven't put my small rig cage on. I'm just using the grip, what is with the camera, and it's actually quite good. I can grip that quite nicely. and my fingers aren't knocking any of the other buttons, and that's also really good. I think comparing the Nikon Z30 to the Sony ZV-E10 is a really good comparison, because when you're spending your money, you will be looking at different models. And I think there's a few in this range actually. There's a Panasonic G100. I'm actually filming the close-up shot here on my Panasonic G100. I really do like that camera. It has got various flaws when it comes to doing this sort of thing though. And it won't be my regular camera here in the studio for those flaws. The only reason I'm using it is because my two main cameras are here on the desk, because I'm actually going to be showing you them. So I can't record with it. I've got my wide shot being picked up on my Nikon Z5. I really do love that. That's a great camera, and I really enjoy using that camera. That's a full frame Z mount camera, but it's a great camera. I mean, I've got an over the shoulder shot here being picked up on my Panasonic GX9. Again, that isn't my normal sort of camera I would use here in the studio. That's more an out and about sort of pocketable micro four thirds camera, but I'm using it here in the studio. I've got it set to HD just so it doesn't crop in, because when you use 4K on that camera it crops in, and I don't want it to do that. I want a wider shot. So that's now established what this video is about. Now, also, I'm recording onto my Atomos recorders, the two main shots, purely to extend that 30-minute record limit that the Z5 has over there, and my G100. So hopefully that will extend that record limit, provided the batteries don't run out. So this comparison, here is the ZV-E10. It's a nice compact camera. The weight of these two cameras is very similar, almost identical, but that's the Sony ZV-E10, and it has the 24 megapixel Sony APS-C sensor that's inside. So really nice sensor in that. It's actually, you know, been around for a long time, to be fair. They're kind of reusing old sensors, because this sensor is in the A6000, the 6400, the A6600, 6300, pretty much all their compact APS-C bodies for as long as I can remember, probably dating back to the NEX5, although that probably was an older sensor. But the handling is okay on the ZV-E10. I use the phrase okay because it isn't anywhere near as good as the Nikon Z30, but it gets the job done. I mean, the control buttons, there is no PASM dial. It's all menu driven on the Z30. So, sorry, on the ZV-E10. So you do need to go into menus to change it from aperture priority, shutter priority, and what have you. I've actually reassigned this button on the top here, one of these function buttons, so that, like, I'm in photo mode at the moment, and I've reassigned that so I can just push that button in and it will bring up whether you want aperture priority, shutter priority, manual, and so forth. So that to me has helped with the handling. And the grip is okay. It's not the most comfortable of grips, hence the reason I prefer the Z30, which I'll show you in just a moment. But the grip, again, does get the job done. It is a compact camera, so the grip isn't going to be, you know, as good as it would be on bigger cameras because they made the body so small. But it is okay. What I did buy was a small recage that we have here to give me a much better hold on the camera and a much better grip. That also gives me extra mounting points for, you know, flash guns, microphones, whatever you might want to put on there. Lights, you know, LED lights. But yeah, so although it's menu driven, it's okay. And as I said, you've got a function button on the top here for going through the different functions. Now, I will leave a link up here somewhere to my review of the ZV-E10. That way you get a more in-depth look at what the ZV-E10 is capable of, both photo-wise and video-wise. I mean, image quality, great on the ZV-E10. Likewise, it's great on the Nikon Z30. Another advantage of the ZV-E10 over the Z30 as far as ports are concerned, on the side here, you've got your HDMI port, you've got your USB-C port for charging it and what have you. And lighting is actually quite poor there, isn't it? But it has got a headphone jack and mic jack, where you've got your headphone jack at the bottom there, you can just see that. And then there's a mic jack at the top here, where the Nikon Z30 only has a mic jack. I'll show you that in just a moment. So you've got your mic jack on the top there of the ZV-E10. What I love about this, actually, they've completely separated the ports for the headphone jack and the mic jack, and they've color coded the mic jack. And to me, that is great, because when you're working in a darker environment, you can clearly see, even if you can't tell by the color, you can tell by the location of them which one is which. I always find on my Nikon Z5, I get them around the wrong way because they put the mic jack underneath the headphone jack and they're not color coded. So you know, your muscle memory has to remember which one is which. But that's just, you know, that's by the by. But yeah, so the ZV-E10 is a very capable video camera and stills camera, but fiddlier to use because it hasn't got all the control dials. Like on the camera itself, there's only the one control wheel on the back here, which is that wheel there, you know, for controlling your aperture, shutter speeds and what have you. But it has got a rotating dial there that you can use for, you know, exposure compensation, or if you're in manual, you would use the combination of those two dials for dialing in your aperture on one of them and the shutter speed on the other. So it's just a little bit more fiddly to use, but it does get the job done. Where the handling on the Z30 is outstanding. It is absolutely outstanding. The grip is so much nicer. You don't need to put a cage on this one. You don't need to put any extra grips on it to make it feel better. And there's plenty of room between your knuckle and the lens, so you don't keep rubbing your knuckles up against the lenses, and I think that is great. And it has got your two function buttons on the front there, so you've got two additional function buttons on the front. You've got your two controlled command dials, so you've got the one on the back there, which is lovely, and one on the front, which is great, you know. So Nikon also, it's got more function buttons on the back as well. So Nikon have done a marvelous job of the handling of the Z30 and the usability of the Z30. So from a functional point of view, I much prefer using the Z30, the Nikon Z30. I really do enjoy using the Z30 because of the way it works, you know. Now, neither of them have got a viewfinder, so you won't find a viewfinder on the Z30, you won't find a viewfinder on the ZV-E10. So you are reliant on the 3-inch articulating screen. You can see why there's so many similarities between these two models. And the Z30 has the Nikon Z-mount, which is again their newish mirrorless mount. It replaces the F-mount, but it's basically the Z-mount. Now, the thing with the Z-mount, as with the Sony E-mount, it is adaptable. Now, I have the Nikon FTZ adapter. I've actually got it fitted to my Nikon Z5 at the moment, so I can't show you it, but it's basically an adapter that adapts F-mount lenses to your Nikon Z-mount bodies. I've actually got my Sigma 18-35 adapted. It's an F-mount lens. I've got that adapted to fit on my Z5. Likewise, with the Sony E-mount, you can get the Sigma MC11 adapter, and Viltrox make adapters, they all do, to adapt Canon EF mount lenses or Sony A mount lenses and all sorts of other lenses that can be adapted to fit on the Sony ZV-E10. I mean, there's many people that will adapt using the MC11 adapter, will adapt Canon EF and EFS mount lenses. Actually, I have discovered that the EFS lenses don't mount using the MC11 adapter. You have to get another adapter to mount the EFS lenses, but you can mount Canon full frame lenses. And the other thing with the Sony E mount, it will take Sony's FE mount lenses, the full frame lenses, that will fit on the E mount system. Again, that is a great design. Now, that's exactly the same what Nikon have done with the Z mount, but because it's the normal full-size Z-mount, you can fit the full-frame Z-mount lenses on there. For example, I've got here the Nikon 40mm f2 Z-mount lens, and I fit that on my Z30 a lot of times, certainly in the studio here when I'm filming, because it's a beautiful lens. It's an f2 lens. It's a great lens. But when you are mounting full frame lenses, you need to take into account the APS-C crop factor, which is 1.5. So a 40mm effectively becomes 60mm. So just take that into account when you're mounting, you know, full frame lenses on your Z30. And the other great thing with the Z-mount is there's masses of F-mount lenses available, be it from other manufacturers such as Sigma, Tamron and what have you. As an example, I've got fitted to my, if I can reach it, my very old Nikon D300. This camera here, actually I took to Australia with me in 2008, and I've got some of the most amazing photographs on the Nikon D300. If you are curious of how good these old cameras are, it's a 12 megapixel camera, weighs a flipping ton, although I know I've got a grip on it. But I will leave a link in the description below where you can find the images I took in Australia using the Nikon D300, and they were great. They are really, really good. So if you're on a tight budget, buy a used old Nikon D300, 75 quid, 100 quid, probably less than that. But anyway, I've been using, with great results, this Sigma 17-70 lens. I've been using this 17-70 lens on my Nikon Z30. And I've been getting awesome results, and it has got image stabilization in the lens, and it's an f2.8 to f4 lens. So, you know, you've got a great range, and these lenses are so cheap. So that's a lovely thing with using the FTZ adapter. You can adapt old F-mount lenses. So highly recommend that, and that's that's a great option to do. But again, you see, with the Sony ZV-E10, because it's E-mount, you can adapt many old Canon EF lenses and many other lenses, old manual lenses, you can adapt to work on the ZV-E10. Some functions will work, some functions won't. That will be the same on the Z30, where you might find you have to use manual focus, or the aperture might not be automatic. But in general terms, most of these lenses will work in autofocus and will work auto aperture. Again, as an example, I've got my Sigma 18-35. It's a classic lens fitted to me Z5. I've got it in autofocus and auto aperture. Although actually I've got it set to manual exposure, but auto ISO. I've done the same on my G100. That's on auto ISO, and the same on my GX9 over there. So there we go. Now the main differences I see between the ZV-E10 and the Z30 isn't in stills, because they both take great stills. The sensors are great and they both take great stills. The Z30 has better handling for stills, because adjusting the controls is a lot more, you know, well, I say a lot easier. It comes more natural to me because there's two control dials. So I prefer taking photographs with a Z30 for that reason, but not for image quality. They're both exceptionally good. But the main differences come with video. And the ZV-E10 has a headphone jack, where the Z30 doesn't have a headphone jack. It's got the mic jack, which is great. I wouldn't have bought it if it didn't have a mic jack, but it has got a mic jack. The ZV-E10 has got mic and headphone jack. Apparently the microphones are better in the ZV-E10. The built-in mics are better on the ZV-E10. It's got this 3-module microphone set up on the top here. The Z30 has got your sort of traditional built-in microphones, and you can buy separate. It's got actually two, stereo microphones on the top there, and you can buy separately a cover, a little dead cap that goes over it, made by Small Rig. But it doesn't come with it, where the cover for the ZV-E10 does come with it. So that's a couple of differences there. I'm not going to go through, I was going to go through sample photographs. I'm not going to do that because that would extend the life of this video and that's a bit pointless. I will put links in the description of this video where you can find, on my Flickr page, where you can find sample images of the Nikon Z30 and the Sony ZV-E10. So it's much better for you to have a look at them there. You can study them better than what you can on YouTube. YouTube's compression isn't good for photographs, so I'd prefer you look at them on my Flickr page. I'll also put a link to some software that I use regularly. It's called not Luminar 4, it's called Luminar NEO now. It's a great bit of software, and if you do decide you want to buy it, I'd give you a link to where you can download a trial version. It's from my website, but if you do decide you want to purchase it, use the code AVP to get $10 off. It's great for doing replacing skies and doing that sort of editing. If you look at just a quick look at where are we, come on, that one there, it's great for doing that. So if you've got a boring sky such as that, you can replace it with a sky such as that. So again there, that's replaced, and that's a boring sky. And I've also used it to bring up the shadows under the bridge and what have you. So a very useful bit of software. It is a standalone piece of software, and once you've purchased it, you own it. You haven't got to pay a subscription fee like you do with Lightroom. So, you know, or you can use it as a plug-in to Lightroom is what I do. So there we go, great bit of software. There we go, that's a quick kind of comparison between the Nikon Z30 and the Sony ZV-E10. Again, I'll put links, put a link up here somewhere, hopefully, to my Nikon Z30 review, so you can take a look at that. And I did earlier to the ZV-E10, so you know, you can have a look at the comparisons between these two cameras and take a look at the images on my Flickr page. So there we go. I hope you found that useful. Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already done so. Hit the like button if you like the content of my videos. I really would appreciate that. That'd be awesome. So thanks very much. Cheers for now. Bye.